Welcome to Utah Stories. This is a very exciting program we have to you today because our brand new issue is hot off the press. This amazing cover was done, by the way, by Young Huang, and he's been our illustrator for, man, going on like 10 years. He is so talented. His style has developed over the years. He's been a photographer, illustrator, but I love this cover. This is our Utah Artist and Con Artist issue. It's about who is getting rich off the failed homeless money. It's a very interesting question. Failed homeless housing is what we're looking at. I found this story extremely interesting when we were covering it back in November because the election was going on. We were electing a new mayor. The Ramada, which is pictured here in this image here, was slated to be homeless housing, like all these wonderful housing units set aside for the homeless to get them off the street, get them into housing, especially the most vulnerable, the elderly who were homeless, the people priced out of the housing market for temporary housing. And then the mayor's just like talking about it. It's going to be great. It's going to happen. And then Rocky Anderson stands out in front of it and says, there's nothing going on behind me. There's nothing happening at this site. The man who got the money for the homeless housing, his name is Keith Warburton. He was given $6 million and the site and the ability to develop it, and it never progressed. And what I found very fascinating back in November is the Tribune just stopped reporting on it. They said, yep, Keith Warburton never progressed. It never happened. Too bad. End of story. Wasn't the end of the story for us. We kept asking the questions. I went to Keith Warburton's City Inn, which was another site he had developed, gotten for, homeless housing money. And I said, what's going on here? And I unfortunately wasn't able to talk to Keith, but I found out he was getting $11,000 per month water bills, and I believe it was $8,000 a month garbage bills from the city. And he was not able to get his permits because the city would not release the funds to him. And so we began asking questions. Why weren't the funds released to him? Why wasn't he able to get the permits? And we were not getting any answers. The mayor's office would not get back to us. We reached out to Andrew Johnson. He just wouldn't go there. Well, we're not talking about that, especially to you. You're Utah Stories. You're not the Salt Lake Tribune. So rather than, continue persisting, I just point out in this story, the Salt Lake Tribune just stopped asking questions. They just did not want to talk about it because they wanted to protect the mayor, it seems to me, and as well as the Miller family, the Larry H. Miller family, who purchased the site. If you don't know the Larry Miller family, they sold their car dealerships. They sold the Utah Jazz. They're sitting on a pile of cash. I think it's around $3 or $4 billion. And they're building this power district, which just so happens butts up right against this Ramada Inn that was supposed to be for homeless housing. So the Miller family came in, swooped in, purchased the property, one of the richest families in Utah. Too bad, homeless, you don't have housing. But the power district, oh man, it's going to be cool. There's going to be a Major League Baseball stadium. There's potentially going to be a Major League Hockey stadium. There's going to be high-end apartments. There's going to be a river walk. Who wouldn't want that? Like, forget about homeless housing. That's going to be cool. So who gets shafted in this whole deal, of course, is the low-income homeless folks, the people who are most at risk, the elderly priced out of the housing market. They all get shafted, and the billionaires get richer. So that's what this article is about. That's what this issue is about. And we've already gotten a lot of great feedback from it because we are wanting to report on the things that the other media, local media, will not report on because, just face it, they just have no fly zones. You just don't fly over the corporate elite in Utah. You don't do anything that might criticize them or make them look bad. You just don't go there if you are local mainstream media. But we will go there. And so I am so grateful for your support with this magazine. We've gotten a lot of subscribers. We've gotten a lot of members. You guys came out to our last big event where we had a storytelling contest. It was super fun at Shades Brewing. and we're going to be doing the event again. So it's a storytelling competition. This is the ad for it. It's tomorrow night, April 10th, from 7 to 9 p.m. at Shades Brewing. And it's just the way I look at liberty and our liberties that we have the freedom to speak our minds. We have the freedom to convene together and assemble together. And we have these freedoms, but if we don't exercise them, if you feel like you're going to censor yourself all the time and not speak your mind or not tell the stories that mean something to you, these freedoms could easily just disappear. And so I love the idea of people showing up, talking, telling their stories, having a good time, drinking some beer. So come out to our event tomorrow at Shades Brewing. It's not the one that's on, I believe, 300, between 300 and 400 South on State Street. It's their other location where they actually brew the beer. It's in South Salt Lake. It's on Main Street. It's 154 West Utopia Avenue. So a lot of people went to the wrong location, including some of the people who were going to speak. It's not the one downtown. It's the one in South Salt Lake. So, come out. And if you watch this where the event has already happened, then we're probably going to do these every month because they're super fun and people had a blast. And, and it'll be great. So I wanted to go over just a couple other things that are in this issue. There's constant land disputes in Utah, right? There's a constant battle going on between the, let's say, right-wing conservatives, Republicans who want more freedom and more access to land. They want to drive their Jeeps over land. They want to use their UTVs. So we got this article, and we talked to a couple of Jeep company owners in Moab, Utah, about what's going on with the closure of trails. And this is something I've been covering in Moab for about 10 years. I've really been fascinated by this divide because I love the environment. I consider myself an environmentalist, but I can appreciate hunters, ranchers, off-road people who like to Jeep. I appreciate their side, that they want access to these trails and lands, because especially in Moab, a lot of people don't even know the history. These trails were carved out of the rock that you made access to the land possible by the mining industry. And most environmentalists hate mining, but now that those trails have been carved out of the rock, like in the Schaefer Trail in Moab, and the White Rim Trail, now they want to protect it more, so more Jeeps and cannot go in there. And that's not the case yet for the Schaefer Trail, but the trails that have been closed are include Day Canyon Point, Dead Man Point Overlooks, Hell's Roaring Canyon, Hey Joe Canyon, Mashed Potatoes, and 10 Mile Canyon. It's a lot of closures, but it's a lot of closures that are way far outside of Moab. You got to go way out. But I actually think it's kind of ridiculous, because what you have in Moab and the Canyonlands and Arches National Parks is a lot of sandstone and slick rock, and you really can't cause a lot of environmental damage with Jeeps. You just have to stay on the trail and not hit they call it cryptobiotic soil. It's this strange sort of blackish soil that's formed out of the sand, and it kind of creates a biological ecosystem in there, but it's teeny tiny. You can't really see it. We've written about it. So you can't go off the trail because you're going to affect the ecology of the cryptobiotic soil. But if people stay on the trails, they can't do any damage, really. So it's an ongoing debate and dispute. Unfortunately, this affects some of the ma and pa Jeep rental places who really need your support. So I highly recommend go out and support these groups like NavTech, who we wrote about. And, and if you think that if you want to know about this issue, again, pick up our current issue of Utah Stories. It's an awesome article. It was written mostly by Connie Lewis. It says it's written by me, but Connie picked up all the information and got another story about Moab, about this nearly forgotten isolation camp. And what's interesting about this is Kathy McKendrick did this story for us. It's a period in time where from the 1942 to 1945, 120,000 Japanese Americans were uprooted from their homes and put in these camps, and they call them isolation camps, whatever. They were essentially concentration camps, and it was a horrible thing that horrible chapter of our history, but it's worth learning from it. And one of my takeaways from this, we've been covering online, you might have noticed from our Instagram account, what is happening at the southern border and why are we not getting the news stories about it? Because if you report on it, as we learned, you can be called a racist by reporting how essentially migrants are overrunning the Texas Border Patrol. Just reporting on it, as we did, we got flooded with comments. I won't say majority of the comments were calling us racist for reporting on it, but we got about 10 people saying, you're saying these migrants are bad and they're wrong, and that means you're a racist. No. What we are saying is that we are strongly in support of legal immigration. And in fact, I absolutely understand the plight of illegal immigrants in this country. I can understand why a lot of them would come here, especially if they come from places like Chile and formerly Argentina, which are overrun by hoodlums and gangs, and they're basically just ransacking homes and businesses with impunity. I can understand why migrants come here. But of course, we need a secure border. And it's one of the most important issues of this upcoming election. We want to get the truth out there, what's happening at the border. If you don't know this program, we are neither left or right. I am an independent. I would probably have been considered a Democrat 20 years ago. But the Democrat Party, mainstream Democrat Party, has gone way too far left for me. I then, understood the values and priorities of people living in rural communities. And I thought, well, why not go for libertarianism, just the smallest size of government possible? But those are values that small town communities can appreciate and not people in big cities. So I consider myself a liberal in the city and a libertarian in the country, because those values and priorities make the most sense depending on where you are located geographically. And so this program is for independents. If you are far right-leaning, hardcore neocon and whatever, this is not the program for you. And also, if you are far left-leaning and you think, everything that CNN is reporting on and Joe Biden is doing is great, this is also not the program for you. This is for the people in the middle who want to use their independent thinking and ways of thinking and think about problems and solutions. I don't consider this a political program, but it's an ideas program where we like to bring on guests to talk about ideas, like we did with Michael Valentine. He's an anti-Zionist living in the land of Zion. That was a really fun podcast we did with him. And we just like to talk about these issues and illuminate these ideas that a lot of people in their 20s are thinking about, a lot of Gen Xers, I'm a Gen Xer, but people who are younger than me who are dealing with not being able to afford housing, not being able to buy a home and build equity like I was able to do when I was in my early 20s. Those big issues are the issues I like to handle and deal with on my end of the podcast. The Utah Stories Top 5, which Allegra is doing, is more fun and lighthearted and where to go, what to see, how to have fun in Utah. And we thought we would delineate and separate those two podcasts from each other because they are two different animals. So if you want to talk about the quality of life issues, the big issues impacting Utah and the future of Utah, that's what I'm interested in. But if you also want to know really where to go, what to see, how to have fun, the culture of Utah, watch the Top 5 podcast that Allegra does 3 days a week. I'm going to do my podcast 2 days a week. I'm going to hopefully have a guest every week. And so I really thank you so much for all your support. I thank you so much for leaving comments. We've gotten hundreds of comments over the last few months. We've picked up another 11,000 Instagram followers. It's been great. We got a lot of people also hate commenting on what we're doing, bringing you the truth and trying to bring you a unbiased look at the truth. If you want to leave hate comments, feel free. I think the hate commenters got overrun by the more logical thinking people. So I just think it's a cool thing. It's a cool debate forum. We can't look at it. We kind of realized around the office, you just don't look at Instagram that long. Don't spend a lot of time reading the comments. Just glance over it and then close the application. Maybe delete it from your phone for a few days. That's kind of our tactic. But I appreciate all the support. And again, you can support us in a couple of ways. Follow us on Instagram. That's cool. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Like and subscribe this video. Share it with a friend. But probably the two best ways are go out to utahstories.com. Subscribe to our free digital newsletter. We send you the voice of local Utah every week, absolutely free. Or you can subscribe to Utah Stories magazine for just $3 per month. That's $3, like the less than a coffee per month, and we will send you this awesome magazine right to your door, and you will help support our intrepid local journalism as well as these, asking these questions that the other media does not want to ask. So remember our event tomorrow night. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.